Well, that wasn't worth it, now was it? So Mario Tennis Fever came out for the Switch 2, and it's been pretty disappointing for most people. I was cautiously optimistic that they wouldn't do this again, but then the reviews came out talking about how the game was lacking content like the Switch 1 game, so I'm not surprised on how this game turned out. We've seen what Nintendo is willing to sell for $80, so the fact that this is what they're releasing for $70 shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. And from what I've been seeing about this game, it just looks like a ROM hack for Aces, and this might be one of the worst offenders yet. Apparently, the gameplay has been even further simplified from Aces, which is always a good sign. If I'm not mistaken, the gimmick courses only have their hazards enabled during tiebreakers. The online is super restrictive again. I heard that someone couldn't play a doubles match with their friend online against another pair, which should have been your cue to refund the game immediately. Back on the Switch 1, I actually bought the excuse that because it was on a new console, it was somewhat excusable, but this just proves that it's been intentional all along. This is pure malice, and you're paying at least $540 to experience it. Now, one of the biggest controversies about this game, aside from the reveal, reviews, and release, is the fact that it's reusing a ton of animation from Mario Tennis Aces, despite being a $70 sequel to a game released in 2018. And while that's partially true, the reality is actually a lot worse because these animations are actually from 2016's Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. You know, a Wii U game from 2016. Okay, so check this out, right? Here's the victory animation for Luigi in Mario Tennis Fever. Okay, so then if we switch over to Aces, so that's what that looked like in Tennis Aces. So then if you actually go back to Ultra Smash on the Wii U, this is what it looks like.
Game, set, and match, receiver. Super Luigi.
So these animations are over a decade old, and they're being put into a $70 game. Like, this is not acceptable by any stretch of the word. There's nothing inherently wrong with reusing assets if it saves time and development costs, but don't sell the game for $70 in. If you're gonna be reusing stuff, don't sell for $70. Sell for like $40 or $50. This level of asset reuse is criminal. Like, really? Also, is it just me, or do the games actually get worse? Why does the lighting get worse with every iteration? Right, so you have, okay, so aside from the background stuff here, so look, so the crowd here, I mean, it's 3D model, that looks good, and the lighting looks better. Then here, the lighting, I remember the lighting being really bad in Aces, but then if you see the characters, like, these are flat here, but then if you actually see the characters, like, the illumination on the gloves here looks really nice. Like, I like the bluish hue from the glove there, but then you go here, and, like, the lighting seems to get more flat, and then it gets, like, even worse here. Like, what's going on? I mean, I think there's, like, well, there's like more detail like on Luigi's shoes, I think on his shorts here, but like, aside from that, I think I like the way the Wii U version looks best. Back in the Wii U days, Nintendo's approach to lighting was actually pretty good. The games have aged really well, actually. Yes, this quote-unquote next-gen, premium-priced new release for the Switch 2 is using animations from 2016. So to those of you who keep saying that the Wii U era was irredeemable garbage and that modern Nintendo is so much better, this is a Wii U game, and it's been slightly modified and resold for nearly double the price, and some people are still falling for it. I don't think Nintendo realizes that every game they release like this not only hurts their reputation, but also removes credibility from their statements about the games being expensive and taking more time to develop. And AAA companies as a whole are finally starting to learn that both the time and money of their customer base is finite, but also their trust and patience is too. Now, if you allow me to go on a side tangent briefly, that High Guard game released and got absolutely trashed by the gaming community despite the dubious indie label placed on it, and seeing the developers respond to that game's failure paints a clear picture of what the priority was from the beginning and how they think of the game buying general public. That being that they feel entitled to money just because they quote-unquote worked hard and put a lot of time into the game, while blaming the gamers for their failure, completely overlooking the fact that they're just one of the many live service, money-siphoning fun sponges that have cursed the gaming landscape throughout the 2020s. Now, being an indie dev myself, I actually do relate to how frustrating it can be to put all your time and effort into a project just to have it flop, but that relatability goes straight out the window when your game is getting endorsed by the Game Awards, and you apparently have enough money to pay content creators to shill your game for you despite being an indie studio. Okay, yeah, sure. So on top of the game just not being very fun, you're also not quite lying, but also not being upfront about the conditions your game was made in. I also want to give a shout out to Clear Obscure for validating everyone's opinion that $50 games should be the standard, but also the potential threat of astroturfing in the gaming industry, because I have a conspiracy that High Guard's marketing, or lack thereof, was a response to Clear Obscure's popularity. There were too many similarities between how those games were developed, and that could have spelled disaster for the indie scene if AAA publishers managed to siphon money away from even that community, but thankfully they were too greedy and incompetent to even give off the illusion of being indie. Are you starting to see why the combination of higher prices and lower quality quality has destroyed the prospects of $70 games. And like the AAA garbage we've seen throughout the decade, this relates to Mario Tennis Fever in regard to how a burned audience invites more scrutiny. Trust me, if the Switch 1 Mario sports games were feature-rich, complete experiences, then this conversation will be about whether you prefer Aces over Fever. But we've been having the conversation about the quality of these games since Battle League released in 2022. So now when I see Fever come out with this level of laziness, using animations which are over a decade old, it doesn't have me asking whether this game is good or not. It has me questioning what other corners were cut. In my initial Nintendo Direct reaction, I pointed out how the box art had copy-pasted characters for the audience. In fact, I thought they were just PNGs, and things like this just confirm it for me. They haven't given me any reason to think otherwise. And why stop there? That Poke model looks awfully similar to the one from Mario Kart 8. Was it reused? You'd think they'd use a model that's more similar to the one from Wonder. Hey, wait a second. Donkey Kong's using his redesign in this game, but why is everyone else still using their old design? I thought that'd be the standard going forward after Mario Kart World. Man, it's almost as if this game was rushed in order to cut costs. And I know we can argue about artistic integrity, but the more artistic choice here would have been to have some consistency with the new art style. These might be small oversights in the grand scheme of things, but this is still symptomatic of an unhealthy development environment. The management at Nintendo must be absolutely insane right now. And if this is what they're leading the console with, then I can only imagine what corners will be cut for new mainline games. And that's all I really have to say about that. This industry really did build the rod for its own back. Both live services and $70 games are finally being treated with the scrutiny that they've deserved for years, and it's about time. The gaming community's done dealing with this garbage, and I'm glad to see that people are finally showing some backbone. I wish it could have happened a lot sooner, but you know, better late than never.